Welcome to Nadia's Notes.
Hey guys, how are you?
I am sitting in the totally best. Wait, lower yourself, higher yourself. Totally the best dumpling place in all of New York City. They used to be located on like 2 blocks from here on Hester. And then like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, they moved. I don't know where. And today, I was taking the bus, having missed all of my doctor's appointments. I had 2. I was supposed to see a gynecologist and a vision therapist, and I missed both of them because I went shopping for vintage clothing. But actually, the real cause is I'm a little bit sad, experiencing some heartache. So, sympathies to all of you out there in the same boat. High five. We shall overcome and survive. These are absolutely the most delicious dumplings ever, and for the price, $3 for 10 dumplings. Well, that's music outside. You can't beat that. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. I can't explain to you how lucky I feel to I'll have to mark them on the map because I'll forget where they are. I swear, I'm looking at the street right now. I'm facing the street where they used to be, like, go straight a block and then turn right. And they weren't there. And I had no idea. I was like, oh my god, they closed down, they sold their business. And it wasn't the same dumplings. Apparently, they moved over 2 blocks to a bigger location.
Yeah.
And it's the same owner. Oh. So I got 10 for me. I'm going to eat like 5. And then I got 10 for my brother. And you have to eat them with, let me show you. Look at that. Oh my god. You have to eat them with the hot sauce, and like they have soy sauce with vinegar. Oh my goodness. And they have good everything. Scallion pancakes. Soup. Dumplings. I really love fried dumplings. And I'm so happy. And I could not believe the weather has gotten really amazing. It's like the second day that it feels like spring going into summer. And I can't believe we survived the winter. I don't know if I completely survived. I'm like damaged now. To be honest, the heartache kind of got to me. This weekend was harsh. It was so bad. I had to like at first I took it valiantly. I was like, not going to cry, not going to get upset. I'm better than this. And then I was like, that's no way to deal with what's happening and with my feelings, and that's no way to like actually address how I feel. Like, oh my god, follow the emotional arc when I was in graduate school, if there's one thing I learned from going to a psychologist, we have like group therapy called What Am I Doing with My Life? I still don't know. I think the answer to that should be living every day. You know, and if you're lucky, you have a long-term goal. Long-term goals are great. They make you feel like you're going places. Short-term goals, on the other hand, there's nothing wrong with short-term goals. You know, like, short-term goals are fantastic. It's so much simpler. You wake up, you go for a walk, you have a good time, you eat something good, you drink something good, you have a fantastic walk, you think about something bright and fluffy like butterflies or New York City in good weather. I don't think you can have a better time than that. But then because you need to live somewhere, you kind of need long-term goals. That's not the only reason, clearly. So, but there should be a mixture of both. Long-term goals, it's all like about the future and what you're doing today for the future. And then short-term goals and joy is like, what are you doing today? And if everything that you're doing for the next 5 years is nothing but sacrifice for some long-term goal, I don't know if you can arrive at that undamaged. I mean, like, we talk about this all the time. Like, oh, sacrifice today can result in a better future. But it depends on what kind of sacrifice, right? So, let's talk about relationships, romantic relationships. We imagine that if we sacrifice our happiness today, like today we're not happy, yesterday we weren't happy, tomorrow we're not going to be happy because of certain issues in a relationship. But in 5 years, when I have changed and the person has changed and the world has changed, we're going to be so happy. Maybe that's not how it works. Because imagine, so like, why doesn't it work like that? Well, crispy skin, so much meat, scallions, ginger, the perfect sauce, like hot, and soy sauce and sour. Hot, salty, and sour. Oh my god. And there's a little bit of like sugar in the crispy dough surrounding the meat. Perfect. So, as I said, I've been dealing with heartache. And what I'm really good at is figuring out how to answer a question that I have or transform my pain so that in the end, my understanding of myself and the world deepens. And I'm very lucky. It's not like, maybe I trained myself by this point to do this, but it's not like I set out to be this person. I just kind of am. I don't know why. There's a thing in my head where if I don't know an answer to a question that I'm interested in, I mean, like, I'm perfectly fine not knowing how a car works, but now that I said it, it bothers me that I don't. Anyway, so I was bothered by what happened. So I was like, what is going on? Like, this thing that's happening is totally like defying my projections of what was happening or my understanding of reality. I mean, like, I wasn't shocked. I mean, I was completely shocked because somewhere I was like, something is off. But another part of me was like, something is completely on. It's going there. Like, we're getting closer. Things are getting deeper and more connected. So the worst thing for me was that I ended up feeling like I miscalculated, because I like to pride myself on thinking that I'm a really good judge of character, or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how good of a judge of character I actually am. I just like people, just like genuinely like people. I think there's so many likable things in like so many people. So I'll find that thing that I like about you, and I like admire it. So, but now what I'm realizing, and my girlfriends struggle with relationships dissolving, with relationships not working, and then what we end up doing is we either end up blaming ourselves or the person. But in reality, I mean, yes, this is part of like getting over a relationship, right? Where you have to go through the up and down, and the worst thing is when you don't become mad, because then you're just in love with that person, and you're like, yeah, things weren't that great, we had issues, but I love this person. So to separate, it's essential to get mad, because it's essential to look at the things that weren't actually fantastic. Even though it doesn't mean they were completely horrible, it just means that you acknowledge both sides of the situation. So I tend to a lot kind of sweep the negative or the bad or the uncomfortable to one side, and then just leave like all the great stuff on the other side. And I'm like, well, never going to find a person with all these unique qualities. So clearly they're amazing, which they are, except for this one thing, right? So I've been leading you on and on and on and on. Here's the thing. If you are suffering or being hurt every day, or if you have to pretend to be someone else and not who you are because you're not feeling accepted in the relationship, it might also be the fact that your partner feels exactly the same way. That's not the issue, right? The issue is that everyday suffering, by definition, is damaging. So the reason that these relationships don't work out is not because this person is horrible, your partner is horrible, or you are horrible, or any of you are doing something really wrong, except for you are kind of betting on future happiness against current joy. And the reason that sometimes these love relationships, which have kind of flaws that people don't address, end, is because you only have so much joy in yourself, and your partner only has so much joy in themselves. Like it's a joy bank, and you can draw out of it, but every time you draw out of it, you have less and less and less of it. Let's imagine that your joy bank, you have subsections allocated to different parts of your life. Like, for example, you can get joy from your job and you can transfer it to the relationship, but there's a specific portion of your joy bank dedicated to relationships and connections. And so every time that you draw value out of it without putting value in from that same relationship, it's like you're taking out credit, and eventually your bank account is going to run to zero. And that's when people end up breaking up, because when one person's bank account goes to zero, they no longer have money. So then they turn to their partner and they say, hey, I ran out of joy money, and like, do you have any for me? Because I'm running on empty and I can't survive like that, because I have to pay in joy every day to feel joy. And this is where it turns out that, well, either your partner also ran out of joy so they can't give you any joy, or
okay,
thank you, you weren't, okay. Thank you so much, thank you, or you weren't getting that joy filled in anyway. And so now your partner is not going to give you joy, because even if they were trying to before, and even if they did try, because apparently the currency that you are using is actually like their joy currency cannot go into your joy bank account, because you have like completely different currencies. Does that make sense? I think that makes a lot of sense. So I don't know how you get to the same currency. I have to think about that, but that seems pretty accurate actually, because if your joy bank runs on dollars and they have pounds, and no matter how many pounds you deposit, you can never convert them to dollars, therefore you cannot use them in your life. It doesn't matter if they're putting pounds into you. It just doesn't matter. Unless you somehow in the relationship can find that conversion factor, or figure out where the exchange booth is. You know, like they have in airports, you can exchange your money. Or, you know, if you happen to be banking at the same bank, whatever that means, I don't know. I'll tell you in a different video. You're good. So it's not that I hate this idea of like vilifying yourself or the other partner. That's another thing that I realized. I was vilifying myself. And then what we do is we either vilify ourselves or the other person. And it didn't make sense to me, because that's not like, when you vilify yourself or the other person, it means one or both of you are completely mistaken and wrong. And so then you don't have sound judgment. It's not like you don't have sound judgment at the beginning or you don't have sound judgment now. An entirely different thing is happening. You did love that person. That person did love you. You have sound judgment. It's just that the approach to the whole thing is kind of outdated, I guess, or just wrong for you. I know this might not sound perfect. I don't even know if I agree with this perfectly, but for fresh theory on relationships, this is pretty good. And the reason that I need a fresh theory for relationships is that by blaming someone, I mean, yes, you can blame people for a while, you know, because if you blame and like anger, if you get angry, which is not the same as moving blame. Like, for example, you're angry at your partner doing something and you're assuming that they shouldn't have done it because if they know you, they wouldn't have done it. At the same time, so then you're perfectly reasonable to get angry, and then you're like, wait, what is my anger actually telling me? So then if you figure out what the anger is telling you, then you approach your partner and you're like, listen, I got very angry at this. Or you can get angry at them if they're okay with that. And then see what the response is. And if the partner's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, I have no idea. And you're like, how did you not know that about me? And then you can ask yourself that question. Did you actually show that to your partner? Or you just like assume that they were going to read you? It's fantastic to be read. But like, we're not very good at reading people. We're potentially very good at seeing their souls and like the best parts of themselves. But like, we don't know how they really think or where their thinking is coming from. And when you don't, you know, you're more likely to be wrong. So I don't mind being wrong as long as kind of things get resolved. And I'm getting rambly, so I think I'm going to go. So I think this is important and profound because relationships and love are about connection. We're not insane people walking around attracted to people that we shouldn't be attracted to, like making stuff up that doesn't exist. That's the worst kind of psychology that you can engage in. You can entertain it, but if you entertain it to its conclusion, you're like a kind of stupid, aimless, pointless being. And that's just not the case, right? You are a descendant of people that have survived successfully for millions and millions and millions of years. And to do that, you lived in an environment much more dangerous than the one now. And in that sense, perhaps, we didn't have so much of an issue of like sacrificing current joy for future happiness because like, you know, you might not survive if your partner is not doing the right thing. But in the current environment, the everyday and the moving towards something else, which is going to be just as good, at least maintaining just as good if possible, but it's not going to be the, you know, when your car runs out of gas, it has run out of gas. You're not going to imagine that if you never refill your engine, you're going to keep going forever. It doesn't work like that. You are a biological machine. And as such, as beautiful and spiritual and soulful that we are, we exist both as these outwardly and beautiful and unexplainable beings, but also kind of, explainable at the same time, in a good way. Because imagine if we didn't do this, we'd be like completely lost in the fog. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed my dumplings. I'm going to get myself a Diet Coke and enjoy the rest of my dinner. And I hope you do too. And please subscribe to Naida's Notes, and please comment. And I hope that what I said will allow you to feel a little happier and be a little happier, and therefore allow yourself to both kind of do justice by yourself and your joy daily, while at the same time allowing you to kind of build a good life in the future. But those two things have to coincide. Otherwise you will run out of your emotional fuel. Thank you. Bye.